Hello, welcome back to our Resto Mod build. For today's project, we're going to clean up our chrome fenders. We're also going to clean up our speedometer here. We'll get that in. So for, I think our next video, we'll do some wiring. And we'll also install our rear fender, and maybe we'll even get the tail light on. But for our chrome fenders, what we're going to go over is I've got some double-aught steel wool, and we'll go over the chrome with this, and we'll clean that up. And we'll get all the light surface rust off. And then what we also are going to do is we've got our Honda Cloud Silver. I'm going to take that, and I figured out through the years a decent trick is the inside these guys, they're really pretty ratty and rusty. What works out to kind of hide that, make it kind of camouflage, is I'll spray paint the inside with the silver. And then if I get any overspray on the actual fender, I'll take some lacquer thinner and just wipe off the paint and clean this up, and then maybe we'll even get a light little polish to try to bring this back. But it's a nice little trick to hide the rust without, because if you spray them black, they kind of stick out, and if you have it chrome and it's inside the bike and you can just barely see in there, it's really hard to pick out. But it covers it and makes it look a lot more complete. So we'll grab the steel wool, we'll get the fenders, and we'll also go around the chrome on this guy. Be careful not to waterlog it a little bit, but we'll get the chrome cleaned on that, and we'll head over to our trash sink and start cleaning up. All right, now that we've got them all cleaned up, we'll head over to the paint booth and we'll spray the insides. So just for reference, we use the steel wool grade 00 for the guys that want to know. And now we're going to move on to our Honda Cloud Silver touch-up paint. Before we spray the color, we're going to try to knock down some of the surface rust on here with our little 90-degree die grinder. And then I've got the little Scotch-Brite pad attachments on there. So we'll go through all the inside. We'll knock that off with this guy, and then we'll throw the paint on. But first, I'm going to suit up, my safety glasses on, my respirator, because I do not want to be eating the rust. One thing I wanted to address before we threw the paint on the back is I just noticed that the top portion of the fender here is all bent and divoted in. Now, I suspect that's probably from people picking up the bike, moving it around. So I just want to address that before we did that. So what I got here is I got a bodywork hammer, and I'm going to put some tape over top of that so we don't scratch the chrome. I've already buffed the end of my hammer on a Scotch-Brite wheel on a grinder. If you don't want any imperfections on your hammer, because what that'll do is that'll just translate right through the metal. So I'm going to go over to our little anvil on our vise. And again, I'm going to put tape over top of the chrome here. And then I'm going to lightly tap from the backside to get this metal to be uniform. So these two holes around it should look just like these two. So we will work our magic to try to figure how to get those back. Well, I just got done tapping my metal tin here. And what I did find here is I've got some of our older bodywork tools. And this ended up working quite a bit better than the flat surface on the vise. I tried it a little bit, but this worked here great. So kind of got a convex curve. Now I wrapped this with tape too. I wrapped my backside, and sometimes I'll even wrap the hammer here, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to like tip the hammer, and you don't want to. You always want to hit on this flat, because this hammer here is almost flat, but you don't want to like hit it like that. You always want to keep it as perpendicular to the metal as you can, because otherwise, from the backside, you'll see like a semicircle in the metal. So we'll see how I did here. Peel this tape back. All right. Now we got a little bit of a safety zone here, because all of this section right here will be underneath the bike, but at least now our tail light bracket and everything should be in a better location than before. And even if you wanted to go a little bit further, you could work out some of these little dingers here and dents. That's just how much time you want to sit with the hammer and get it flat. And you can also, I only did a light polish on this. We could do a heavier polish and it would really come back quite a bit better. But now that we've got that fixed, we've got that dent pushed in quite a bit, we'll throw some paint on. Well, I've got the fenders drying. We sprayed the bottom with silver, so we're going to let that set up for a minute. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move on our decals and our side badges. So we'll go over some of the details of that and we'll get them mounted. But the first thing we got to do, get this seat off. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to prep the surface from all of our greasy fingerprints. So what I got here is just, it's a Moose Racing plastic cleaner. My other go-to product is maybe just even a Windex. So we just want to get the oils and grease off. This is pretty close to kind of a glass surface cleaner anyway. So we'll just get this quick misted here. And we'll get all of our fingerprints off from me holding this frame and taking it on and off a bunch of times while we were working on the wiring. At this side, yeah, there's some dirt and grease on there. I'll get this side. Okay, so we've got to remember, we got to put our decals on before we get ahead and put our chrome strip on. So I'm going to also have to take this bracket off here for the gas tank. Our chrome strip's going to have to go underneath this bracket that holds the gas tank in location. Put this aside. All right, so our decals, they come in a nice package box like this so they don't get bent in shipping. And open them up and go over some prep here. So there is a left and right to this. So on the H's, they've got this diagonal center graphic. So this one here, and this one here. So we've got our, as we're sitting on the bike, we've got our right-hand side, and we got our left-hand side. So those will go here and mold around. So the first thing I like to do when I install these, and I've put a lot of these on throughout the years, is I'm going to go grab my scissors. And I'm going to cut as close as I can to the perimeter of this, because we've kind of got our transfer paper on top. And I want to make it as easy as I can to manipulate this and lay it over the surface so I don't get air bubbles. So for this one, I've done so many of these guys that I can pretty much lay this on without getting air bubbles. Another go-to product that I've used in the past, especially if it's bigger than this, is I've used the window tint prep kit that you get from an auto parts store. That's a pretty good material just to spray on real lightly. And what that does is it kind of gives you an oh no moment, so you can pull the decal off before you squeegee all of the semi-soapy water out. I like using that stuff because it's a lot easier than to pre-mix yourself. But for these, I've kind of gotten the knack of doing them without any kind of H2O or water underneath. So I'm gonna go grab my scissors, we're gonna cut this, and we'll go to put them on. So I'm getting as close as I can without cutting the decal. So the top, I'm gonna get like right on there, because I wanna be able to line that up with the top of the motorcycle. So here, I'm just kind of making clearance so it's a lot easier for me to wrap it around the center, let's call it the center tube of the motorcycle. This is the left-hand side, so remember always the swishes are. I'll get this cut, and we'll cut this side. So by getting rid of this, I've found over the years that it helps me not get air trapped underneath the decal. And it's also easier, especially if you've got an older bike like this, to where there's shadowing where the old decal used to be. So now I can kind of see where that's going to be. I can try to cover up a lot of that shadowing so that's not visible after the fact. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of give myself a little dry run. And I'm going to try to kind of bend the bracket, or the bracket. I'm going to bend the decal here a little bit. And I'm going to make sure that I like where my Honda is. So roughly, we want to make sure that the top of the Honda is parallel with the top of where the chrome strip would be, or the top of the pinch frame of the bike. So here, and then also we want to make sure that we're back at our right distance. So I'm kind of lucky here because there's a little bit of a shadow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab a piece of tape, and I'm going to put a little target here where I know where my edge of my graphic transfer paper is. I'll put a little piece of blue tape there, so that'll, one, allow me to put this on for my first side, and then when I go on the other side, what I'll able to do then too is use that as kind of a target and these stripes. So what I'm going to do as I put this on is I'm going to pretty much stick it like this when I know where I want it, and this way. And then what I'm going to do is just kind of roll that down like that and get that air out from underneath that decal. I'm going to go grab myself a little blue tape for my target, and we'll apply that now. All right, so I cut myself a little bit of blue painter's tape. I've got my nice stock edge, or the sharp edge, and I'm going to put that at my decal. So again, I've got the old witness mark where the old decal was, and I'm going to put it right up to the edge where my transfer paper is. So right there, that is the spot. All right, so now I am ready to put this on. I'm going to double check to make sure my alignment, what I like. So I'm going to take note. So this decal should be roughly parallel with that little radius in the inside. Now, sometimes what I'll do is I'll manipulate it a little bit, and I'll have one of the edges kind of go up. Now, I just want to make sure that I'm trying to get my Honda roughly parallel with the top. So I'm noting how I want to do it before I go to throw it on. I know I want to be climbing up just a little bit towards the front and be like right where the chrome strip will cover it to the back. All right, so we'll get this off. You just want to go real slow. Be careful not to tear up your decal. So right there, I'm almost got the T. The trick to that is you kind of almost want to pull it over as sharp as you can. That way, the vinyl will let go. Okay, so I'm going to put my finger here on the back. I know I kind of want it to climb up that middle pinch seam. I'm going to start right here. All right, double check, that looks good. Now I'm just going to roll this decal down, and I'm gonna start from the top and work my way to the bottom. That way all the air has a place to go. So now as I get to this, there's a little radius in the center, this little swish thing here. I'm gonna kind of pull that up and then press it down with my finger so that way I don't get any air stuck in that little section there. Now if you do, you can kind of pull it off a little bit and work its way down. Oh, that's just a little piece of rust that I'm feeling there. Not a, well, I was thinking that was a bubble, but it was just some rust. All right, so we'll work that down. All right, so now before I tear this off, I'm gonna go get my little vinyl squeegee. I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna get adequate pressure on this decal before I take the transfer paper off, because you want to wipe this with this on, because if you do that after you take that off, you're gonna scratch the heck out of your decals. So, but our decals, one thing to note also is we spend the extra money to get them laminated. So these decals have a clear cover over top of them, so they're solvent and somewhat UV resistant, but especially they're solvent. So if you're pouring gas, especially with your side badge, if you get gas on it, you're not going to have just a white decal left. So I know some of our competitors have that because I've worked on some of the bikes, and there's just a white decal there. So when you're looking at these and you're kind of cross-shopping, make sure you kind of ask that they do that extra step, because it is another machine and a whole other process, and it does take a bit more effort and work. And you don't want to spend this, because even a nice car soap, maybe something that's maybe just a little bit more aggressive, we'll take that ink right off if it does not have the laminated clear coat cover over top of the decal. Let me grab my squeegee. All right, on to squeegee. So we're gonna work our way across and down. That way, if I do have any air trapped in there, it can work its way, find its way out to the outsides. Now, if you do get some air underneath that decal and it gets trapped, it's not the end of the world, but it does take a little bit of finesse to kind of get that air out. What you can do is take an X-Acto knife and just put the tip of the X-Acto knife where that air bubble is, and then work your way to that little pierce point. Now, you don't want to like stab the thing, but you just want to make a little hole in the vinyl so that the air can release. All right, so we got this off. Now we're going to take the transfer paper, peel that off, and we'll see how we did. All right, so we have got that covered pretty good. It looks like I might have gone over my, well, we'll leave that there for now. Now we'll pull it off. There we go. So now on the other side, the trick is you're going to want to start, I think I'll hold it up like this. You're going to start this and look from the top. You want to make sure that these white lines line up right with the other one. And we're going to do that one pretty much the same way, where we, except what we're using now as our target is we're using these two white lines with the black strip. So we'll get from the top view, and then we'll take that and we'll roll that over just like we did this side. All right, so remember we were talking about on the other side our target. What I'm trying to do here, again, is I know where I want to go to match the top. And I'm just trying to get an idea. On the other side I was talking about making sure that the Honda here is parallel with the top, and how that on this particular decal, you just want to have it kind of ride up a little bit. At least on this bike it kind of matched where the shadow was on the paint. So here I'm kind of planning my attack and how I want to go at it. I'm making sure, for some reason these H decals and even other people's I put on, it always looks funnier on the left side than it does the right side, but that's that. All right, we'll go for it. So I'm going to get right on top of it, and I'm going to start so that the vinyl lines up. And then I'm going to make sure it climbs up like I seen before. At least that's how I want to be able to cover that shadow. Now roll it down. So I'm trying to roll it over the curve so there's an area for the air to go. All right, we've got it lined up right on the top. It's looking good from the side. And we'll grab our little vinyl squeegee and we will work that down to get some pressure onto the bike. All right, moment of truth. All right, so if you're getting a little hard spot here, to where the decal doesn't quite want to come off, I recommend going to another spot on this transfer paper, then peeling that off, and then working your way down. So I was trying to get it up here on the bottom, and it was kind of lifting on me, but now I can pull from the top, and then peel that off. There we go. All right, we did get on this one. There's no air underneath that, and we are really, really close to our original shadow. Now, we're going to move on to our side badges. Okay, now we're on to our side badges. So, on all the bikes, there is a left and right for these. So there's what you want to call the exhaust side or the non-exhaust side. But how you determine that is you could just see through the paper here. We've got our Honda wing, and they go in directions. So the Honda wing here is going in this direction like this. So just think about a bird as a bird flies. The wings are going forward. So you want these wings, I guess you could say, pointing towards the front of the bike. So that way you don't accidentally put the right side here, where the wings are going this way, like it was flying in this direction. So we're going to do something similar to what we did for the side main decals. Is I'm going to cut all this extra stuff off to help me with my target to make sure I get these mounted here. So these guys are the side badges, but what we have here is the old ones came in a metal foil. What we have is ours is a heavy, thick vinyl, and these ones are also has the laminated clear coat over top of it. So these aren't quite as original as the old ones, but when they're on the bike, it is extremely hard to tell that these are just vinyl and not the metal foil back side badges. So we'll get our scissors and we'll cut these and we'll get them to where we like them. And then we will transfer these onto the bike. Okay, so a trick for landing these guys right where you want them is we're going to put some tape up here. And we'll put a little bit of tape down here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to strike a line with my pen on the center line. So I'm going to get my tape measure. I'll measure from here to here, and I'll find rough center. Then I'll do the same thing here. Then I'll find center. That way, when I go to stick it, I can line my line up there and visually line it there while you're kind of tipping it. And then we'll do what we did on the vinyl over in the main badges. We'll move that down and then out. So we'll kind of work from the center out so we don't get any air trapped. So I'm going to go get my pen and we will find center. The bottom one's easy here because it's got a point. And we'll go do that. All right, now that we got where we like it, we'll take the paper off and we'll see how much we are in target. We are dead on almost. We're just a little, but even the original Honda ones were off a bit. So now that we know that we've got it here, I'm going to use this same masking tape on the other side. This one's easy, it's a cheater because we're just lining up right there where the center of that punched emboss is going. But again, now that you can kind of see the Honda wings, she's flying forward that way. And we'll just duplicate exactly what we did here onto the left side. So that is how you install the side badges and decals. All right, so we've got our decals installed. And now we're going to go on to our chrome strip. So remember the prep. The most important thing with the decals is make sure that you've kind of got your attack plan and that the surface is clean. So with the chrome strip here, we've got an actual Honda OEM strip that we sell on our site. And the installation of this is pretty straightforward. They've got these 3 metal clips on the backside. And what those do is those grab onto the center seam. And that's how it's held on, along with being inserted inside this front section here of the frame. There's room for that. And the seat bracket and the seat itself will clamp over the top. What I like to do when I install this is I'll take our little blue safety cover and I will tear that off so that way I don't have to try to dig that out. It's kind of cool. Some of the original bikes, and we would get them in the shop from time to time, Honda, from what I could tell, just took this strip, shoved it in there, snapped it on, sent it down the assembly line. Then the lucky homeowner or bike owner, kids, you know, like peel that off, and you could still on some of the original ones see the blue cover still on. And when you take the seat off, you go to restore it, a lot of this stuff will be on, and or some people just left it on, which is kind of crazy. But for this, we're gonna push it forward. Now it's a little tough because there is a clip on the front, so you're gonna feel a little resistance. And what you just want to wiggle that back and forth and kind of go in forward. And now I like to say a rule of thumb for me anyways, is I like to kind of have the end of my chrome strip roughly in line with these 2 mounting bolts here for the seat. Now you don't have to be dead on. There is quite a bit of wiggle room here for covering this. So you get it where it's lined up, and then you just lightly tap it on with the palm of your hand. Now you don't got to go nuts or go to town on it, but just a little bit goes a long way. Then I'm going to peel this back so that way when I go to install my gas tank bracket, that it does not cover that. And then I'll just keep that on. Typically when we're doing restorations and stuff, it's just kind of nice there so that it doesn't get scratched. But for us, we don't care. So we'll get this installed. We'll run our screws down. And I think we'll bolt up our engine. But that is the installation of the chrome strip. That is the installation of the seat. So now we'll move on. We'll see how our painted fenders turned out, and we'll get those put in. Okay, I think our fenders turned out pretty decent. So when you go to put it on the bike in that orientation, The silver kind of hides because from a little distance it semi looks like chrome. The problem is I've seen a lot of people where they'll take cleaner, they'll get rid of the rust, and in a matter of, you know, a couple times of getting that moisture on it, that rust comes raging right back. So what we're doing essentially for the bottom is we're sealing it with paint, so that way it'll look the same as it did when we finished it. So I do have a bit of overspray on the outside, and what I'll do is I'll get some either parch brake cleaner or lacquer there, and I'll wipe off all that overspray, and we'll get them bolted up. So our rear fender, we've only got 4 M6 screws, and we'll probably run out of time for the video, so we won't necessarily get to our taillight bracket. We'll save that for the next, and get that mounted. For our front fender here, we're going to have 2 holes that utilize through the horn bracket, and then there'll be a center third one that goes right up through the center of the steering stem. So these ones we're going to reuse, or it will utilize the same fasteners that holds the horn bracket in. We've got our cool stainless steel horn bracket in there that has the fasteners that are long enough. And I believe that horn fastener kit comes with the fasteners for both year, let's call it 69 to 71, and then 72 on upward. So it has that in that bracket kit. But we'll find our bracket or our fasteners here for the third one, and the ones for the back, and we'll get them mounted. So we're starting our rear fender, and one thing to note that you're going to want to do is, I think it seems like a lot of people run into this, but as you kind of get more skilled with doing motorcycles or anything in general, is when you go to mount something up, especially that has kind of complex or more than a couple fasteners, is you want to just get everything started first. Just so everything lines up. You don't want to go ahead and put these 2 ones in, sock them down, and then come over here like, nothing lines up. I mean, you want to have some wiggle room. Oh, geez. So that you know that you can get these things started so you're not cross-threaded stuff. And even the old Honda here, their tolerances, everybody loves to think that these things are so flawless, but this is an original Honda fender on an original Honda frame, but these didn't come together and they don't quite line up. Now, they have 2 clearance holes, but up here I think they have 2 more elongated holes, but this one is definitely not perfect for how it's supposed to or how it is lining up. So what I guess I'm getting at is you just want to take your time to start everything first so you don't get anything cross-threaded. And I'm using my hands here just to feel and not the ratchet right away. All right, that I'm not screwing anything up and making way more work for myself. I'll grab the ratchet here in a second. But all right. I know we've had complaints with other people doing this, and I try to replicate what they're doing, and that's the only thing that I can come up to is that on some of our reproduction fenders too. And most of the time it runs into that. It's just where you're not giving it its best opportunity. So we've got our 4 fasteners on the back. Let's move up to the front. On to our front fender. So we've got a really cool new Trail Buddy 12-volt horn bracket. And we've got our OEM fender. So we're going to do, I think the easiest will be just to start the screw in the center of the steering stem. And then work our way up to these front ones. And the same in the front as the back, because I'm just trying to get everything started so we can get it aligned. Now this one has a lot of clearance. So what I'll like to do is get this, I don't know, I guess I call it a little more than finger tight. But what I'm going to go do next is I'm going to move to the front of the motorcycle. And I'm just going to make sure that my fender is not crooked. Yeah, I can still move that. So I'm going to move to the front. I'm going to look down the center. I'm going to make sure that this thing is not cranking off to the left or the right. All right, so I got it centered. I'm also going to attack the camera. So I'm going to get the center one tight. Then I'm going to have to grab a wrench and move on to these two. We are close to our aftermarket engine, but we are clear. All right, we got our front bracket on, our fender with the horn bracket. We've got our rear on. I think we'll conclude. We'll put our final fasteners through the motor. We left that loose until now because what we were doing when we were doing a lot of the electricals, we were taking it on and off, on and off. And that makes it a little bit easier to work with because sometimes it's nice to be able to get up through the bottom of the bike while you're doing some of the electrical and running the fuel line. So one thing to note when you're putting the fasteners in through the engine is the back lower fastener, you want to have it come in through this direction. We'll set up the camera over here and we'll get a shot of that. It's not crazy exciting, but it was one thing to note because otherwise when you go to put your brake pedal on, it'll get in the way of the spring. Okay, so this is what I was referring to on the back side. I'm going to put a washer on, the bolt, but you can see here if we were to go to put the spring on, if I had the bolt sticking out even any further than the depth of the head, I would get in the way of everything. So that was just what I was referencing there. So we'll get these on, and we will call the video complete for the evening. All right, that'll wrap us up for tonight. So we've did quite a bit. We got our decals on, cleaned up our chrome fenders. We got our seat mounted, and mounted our chrome strip. So that'll be it for tonight. Next week, we'll probably work on finishing our wiring, getting some of the other bracketry on, and we are getting close to starting this bad boy up. But if you like these parts or more parts, please check us out on mytrailbuddy.com.